When looking into the history of the Jesuits in Mexico, we can't avoid taking into account the context at which they arrived to Mexico and the context in which they left Spain. Spaniards shared a sense of religious homogeneity and a notion of royal mystique. Initially, Spanish theories had justified annexation of American lands and peoples solely on the grounds of Spain's Christianizing mission. When Bartolomé de las Casas, among others, insisted that the sovereignty of indigenous peoples be respected, Spaniards promoted the idea that Indian communities could become royal vassals upon their leaders accepting the faith and allegiance to the Spanish king. The King of Spain, Philip II, knew that prominent Mexicans of Spanish descent wanted Jesuits to educate their children as well as to Christianize the Indians. He was also interested in educating aristocratic and promising but low-born Indians and mestizos. Francis Borgia, the superior general of the Society of Jesus, proposed that Jesuits were to begin slowly, to preach and teach Christian doctrine in Mexico City and its surroundings, to send missions to settled Indian communities, to establish good relationships, and live modestly. The Jesuits arrived in Mexico City in 1572. Some Jesuits were sent to work as missionaries among the Indians. However, in the 1570s, missionary endeavors were minimal. Nevertheless, the Jesuits did work with promising and aristocratic Indians and mestizos, giving them Spanish-oriented education. In 1580, the emphasis shifted. The year marked a turning point in Jesuit priorities. Juan de la Plaza introduced a more intense study of native languages, preparing Jesuits for missionary work. In 1581, the first permanent mission was established among the Indians of the North in Sinaloa, and since 1604, missionary activity advanced rapidly. However, some believe the Spanish population remained ignored. For this reason, schools were still the preferred post for some of the Jesuits in Mexico. The Jesuits were so successful that by 1579, they held a virtual monopoly on secondary schooling, and the order also became a prime dispenser of higher education. They were to make students, who belonged for the most part to the elite, instruments apt for religion, possessing modesty, virtue, and Christian honesty. Perhaps most important, Jesuit schools continued to disseminate to future leaders the belief in a faith inseparable from Spanish civilization. Public ceremonies allowed wider dissemination of the ideal of imperial attachment. In 1578, to accompany the arrival of numerous saintly remains, festivities were arranged by the society, imparting on the audience a sense of Mexico as a political entity within a larger imperial system. Along with this was a continuing toleration of indigenous sub-societies as communities possessing their own internal political organization. Through educating, Jesuits furthered an acculturation that facilitated the ongoing inclusion of Indians within the imperial political framework. By the mid-18th century, articulate Mexicans became increasingly aware that Spain did not represent the best of Western culture. Within the society itself, a group of young Creole Jesuits spoke of a desire for change. They promoted ideas and activities that contradicted the older ideology still dominant in education. At the same time, Jesuits continued their missionary work, especially in the north of Mexico. Tasked with evangelizing, the Spanish crown provided missionaries with annual subsidies and exempted the mission's population from taxation until their conversion was complete. The complexity of these religious conversions are well illustrated by the Jesuit missions among the Tarahumara Indians of Chihuahua, Mexico. Jesuit missionaries first contacted the Tarahumaras around 1601 and attempted conversions until 1767, when Charles III of Spain expelled the Jesuits from his New World holdings. In the half-century following the Spanish conquest, a series of mining strikes propelled Spanish settlements thousands of kilometers north of central Mexico to the edge of Tarahumara country, where the Mexican states of Chihuahua, Durango, and Sinaloa are found today. This vast region was organized into a single political unit called Nueva Vizcaya, with its capital at Guadiana, modern-day Durango. The first missionaries in Nueva Vizcaya were the Franciscans, and the Jesuits joined them in the 1590s, soon establishing several missions north of Guadiana and also the west across the Sierra Madre mountain chain in Sinaloa. In 1601, the Jesuit Pedro Mendez left the Sinaloa missions to enter what is now the westernmost section of Chihuahua. There he contacted Indians closely related to the Tarahumaras known as the Chinipas. Local Indian resistance, probably stimulated by the hostile encounters with the Spanish miners, delayed the founding of the Chinipa missions until the 1620s. A decade later, neighboring Indians killed the two priests there and destroyed the missions, which the Jesuits did not re-establish until the 1676. Rebellions in 1615, 1648, and 1690 disrupted mission expansion, but by the time of their expulsion in 1767, the Jesuits had established a network of missions that stretched across much of Tarahumara country. These missions were organized into three divisions: Lower Tarahumara, which included missions founded for the most part before 1648, Upper Tarahumara, composed of missions founded in 1673 or later. The third were missions to the west of the Upper Tarahumara area, which the Jesuits organized into Chinipas Mission Province in 1734. To convert the Tarahumaras, the Jesuits attempted to apply a comprehensive program of direct social and cultural change. In creating new missions, the missionaries placed equal emphasis on establishing economies, developing an infrastructure to organize mission life, and instructing in religious matters. In the realm of religious conversion, the missionaries concentrated first on baptizing as many people in their new mission as possible. Before administering the sacrament of baptism, the priests were required to teach the new converts elementary church doctrine. The Jesuits assigned missionaries to unmissioned areas only when at least some of the Indians living there requested them. The Tarahumaras appear to have been initially attracted to the Jesuit mission program for three reasons: 1. To gain the priests' supernatural powers, 2. To seek protection, and 3. To acquire European goods. Tarahumara communities seem to have initially responded positively to the missionaries. However, an alternative perspective soon emerged to counter the pro-mission view. In the mid-17th century and again in the 1690s, Tarahumara position exploded in a series of organized revolts. The 1690s revolt did not succeed as the earlier revolts had in expelling the Spanish missionaries, and in the 1700s no more revolts erupted. The Tarahumaras in most of the Jesuit missions appear to have participated enthusiastically in the elaborate religious ceremonies introduced by the missionaries. However, the favorable response to the Catholic rituals did not extend to the instruction in formal Catholic doctrine. By the conclusion of the Jesuit mission period in 1767, the priests' early success with the lower Tarahumaras appears to have disappeared, and except for 6 missions, instruction in formal Catholic doctrine for the upper Tarahumara and Chinipa areas seems to have progressed little beyond the minimal knowledge required for baptism. During the reign of Charles III, the Society of Jesus was banished from all Spanish dominions in 1767. On the night of June 24, the Viceroy of Marquez de Croix called a meeting with religious leaders in New Spain. The Viceroy stated that he had received an order from Charles III demanding the expulsion of the Society from his dominions. The king's orders were carried out in all of the colleges. For 2 days, the colleges served as prisons while the Jesuits gathered their belongings. They left Mexico City on June 24th, in the coaches furnished through the love and kindness of the fellow citizens and escorted by the soldiers, led to Veracruz. Once in Veracruz, the Jesuits had to endure the oppressive heat, even more unbearable because of their great number. 4 or 5 of them had to share rooms. In a little over 3 months, 34 of them were buried, and on October 25th of the same year they set sail for Havana. Violent popular reaction combined with elite disapproval turned the task of expulsion into a bitter affair. Mexican society was indignant at the treatment of the Jesuits. The issue of defense of religion recurred through the Mexican Revolutionary War, and with it came the denunciation of the expulsion of the Jesuits. The majority of Mexican Creoles had remained aloof from the insurrection. Nevertheless, they too shared the insurgents' desire to reverse the expulsion. Most Spanish liberals, on the contrary, had inherited the attitude and policy of the absolutist ministers towards the Jesuits. Their leaders sought to restrict further the role of the regular order in Hispanic life. After Ferdinand VII was restored to power, this position began to change, and as Juan de Dios Cañedo argued, the general sentiment in favor of the society in the region and its opposition to the revolutionary movement should be taken into consideration. Clearly, a major discrepancy existed between the insurgent call for the restoration of the society and the political objectives of the counter-revolutionaries after 1815. A decree by Ferdinand VII restored the Society of Jesus throughout the Hispanic world in May 29 of 1815. Although significantly weakened, the Jesuits slowly recovered their presence within Mexican society, and to this day they maintain a notable role within it.